What if your body was a gift and contribution to your life and not something that you've been stuck with? What if your body could change quickly and easily? Right Body for You will inspire you and show you a different way of creating the body and the life you truly desire. Now here's your host, Donnielle.
And welcome to Right Body for You. I am your host and your body tour guide, Donnielle. Thank you for joining us today. And I say us because it actually feels like a big crowd. And you may feel that way too, and I'll explain a little bit more why that might be in a minute. And so wow, I've already forgotten where I'm going, so I'm just going to go straight to here. So joining me today is
I'm trying not to giggle, so it's okay to bring me in.
I know. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Forget whatever plan I thought I had. I'm cute that way. I think I go one way, and then the energy goes, no. And I have, like, a few people whispering in my ears. I can't imagine why. Oh, I know why. Joining me today is the fantastic Cara Wright. She also does a show here on A2Zen.fm. And they were actually going to talk a little bit about entities. And the name of the show is, Oh My Gosh, an Entity Just Saw Me Naked. And which just cracks me up, and we'll get to why we're calling it that title. But say hello, Cara. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, everyone, and I'm super excited to be here. I love this subject, so happy to be here.
And people, people are like, hello, this is a show about bodies? Why would you bring up entities on bodies? And it's like, well, actually, you'd be surprised how many entities come to a body class and
right.
How many entities actually kind of affect the body.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted Cara to introduce herself a little bit because I honestly have no idea how she got into the entity realm, and so I would love to learn more. So, Cara, please give us a little bit of your background about how you got into the fun world of entities.
Yeah, that's like such a big subject, and I'll make it short and sweet. So, I found Access a few years ago, and shortly after that, I really started. I started seeing, and it was really like kind of in my news feed. I started seeing information about the Talk to the Entities specialty classes, and at first I was kind of like. And for a while, actually, I was like, that's not for me. I'm not aware of the spirit world. It's not that I didn't believe in the spirit world. I was obsessed with John Edwards. I had gone to psychics my whole life. But from my point of view, everyone else was aware of them, but I wasn't. Because I don't actually, in this 10 seconds, it can always change, but I don't actually see them, like, with my eyes. And so I had basically decided that I wasn't aware of them because I didn't see them. And when I started choosing the classes and doing the Talk to the Entities work, I realized that I just perceive them in a different way. And funnily enough, a lot of the stuff that I had been experiencing with my body prior to Access and even in the beginning of Access, because I think when I started really getting my bars run, the bars have such a cool way of kind of allowing you to discover capacities and abilities that you may not have realized you had. And so the body stuff kind of got more intense for me when I started first doing Access and getting my bars run. And looking back now, it's like, because that capacity I had to perceive the spirit world, to perceive energies, to perceive beings out of bodies was getting more, I was getting more aware of it. And I just didn't realize that wasn't perceiving.
Anymore.
Right, and I was perceiving a lot of it through my body. So I would get a lot of body sensations, and I still do. That is kind of a big indicator. My body gives me a ton of information about entities. So it does go. You wouldn't think it goes together, but it does. And then so also, too, I have been working with women and pregnancy for years and years. That's what I did for years. So I do prenatal yoga, and I'm a doula, which I help women in labor. And what I realized is I actually simultaneously was working with the being and with the woman, so the being coming to be born. And I didn't actually realize I was doing that until I started doing this work. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm not only facilitating the mom and her body, but I also facilitate the being. And I empower the being to be part of the process. So it's funny because it's like a lot of us, I think, are doing these things. We just don't even realize we're doing them, and we misidentify and misapply what we're doing as something else, which is what so many people do with the entity world, because we all have the ability to be aware of entities. It's just whether or not we're willing to acknowledge it and kind of explore how it is that we're aware of them, because everyone's different. And I think that's where sometimes people think, oh, I'm not aware of entities, which I totally thought that. I called myself now even the non-medium medium, because I still am kind of like, am I doing this? Like, seriously? But I can't. Every time I do that, I always have a client show up, and it's like everything to the session. They come thinking they're coming for one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, whoops, there's a being here, and they want to talk to you, and like, oh, I guess I'm doing this, so.
And I love it, and like you said, so many people do it so many different ways, and it appears different ways, and the reason justifications for, ignoring it. When I first started Access, I was like, oh, I don't know anything about entities or ghosts or anything. No.
Yeah.
I completely denied it, but you know why I denied it? I finally figured out because I like being scared. I was a fan of the by the campfire ghost stories and the ghost stories at night and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, I like being scared, and I didn't want to take away the eerie, the chills up your spine feeling and stuff. And once I got over that point of view, I started becoming aware of them too, which is good because they show up in body classes.
Yes.
I facilitate these things called Right Body for You all over the world, and entities are there all the time.
Right? Isn't that funny? And what was, I have a yoga studio, so I have classes, and there was a point in time where I wasn't really getting anybody in bodies, but it's like when I would ask the question if these classes were happening, if they were, I would always get this sense of like, class is going to be full. And I still have this. And then I would show up out there and it would be like 2 people. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I had to ask the question, oh shit, how many beings are here that are not in bodies? And it would just be a ton. And so how does it get better than that?
I know. That's why when I started the show, I was like, oh, well, it may feel like we're in a crowd because it kind of feels like it. And this is why. And I love how I got completely derailed because there were so many entities there going, okay, I don't care what you're talking about. We want to get to Cara and do this. I'm like, okay, fine.
I know. I joke that I always travel with a posse. And anytime I'm talking about entity classes, it's always a we. And I didn't even realize that I was doing that until last year. I did a little specialty class at one of Glenn Rice's body classes, and I stood up. She's like, come up and talk about your class. And I was standing up there, and I realized about, 30 seconds into it that I had said we like 12 times. I'm like, well, apparently this isn't just, I'm not the one facilitating this class. Like, I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm just the body you can see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of seeing the bodies, I want to explain, or have you explain, have you explained the reason for this title? Because when we were talking about this, you said one of the things that you get asked most is like, what happens if they see me naked or something like that?
Oh my gosh, when you said this title, I laughed because it is one of the more common things that comes up for people, because when you really start to kind of go, okay, so wait a second, like there's more present around you than you've been acknowledging. So does that mean they can see me naked, or like they can see me in my intimate times, or like if I'm having sex with my partner, or and it's like, well, yeah, or whatever, it's like all of a sudden people feel exposed in a different way. That's the best way to put it. And yeah, really. And it's like, do they like stand around watching you do that? I mean, probably not all the time, but can they? Absolutely. Like, I mean, for me, it's like the place where I like really am able to lower my barriers and like be lots of space. And so I end up being more aware of what's going on around me is when I take baths. Like my bathroom is like this like amazing relaxation place for me. So I just kind of had to get, pod poc everywhere, use the clearing statement and just pod poc everywhere. I was uncomfortable with that idea. And what's funny is that's not even necessarily like the ones that I'm more aware of. They're just really like, oh, okay, I can get your attention now. They don't really care what I'm doing, right? Like, they're just wanting to communicate, So
that you can hear me, and I would like you to talk a little bit about how you see entities. I mean, not see, but like your point of view about
them. Yeah.
Yeah, because so many people, and I was one of those. It's like, oh no, ghosts or evil things that are going to get me or whatnot. I have a friend who actually sees entities, and she used to go to sleep each night going, I know you're there, but please don't let me see you. I know you're there, but please don't let me see you. And so we always think it's this really scary thing. And I know Access kind of has a different point of view about that. So will you talk a little bit about the difference in like ghost stories and
Totally. Well, and it's like, and I said, with a little bit in the beginning of the show, how it was something that I was always, like, I always believed in the spirit world, and I always, like, went to psychics and all that. I also, like, totally bought into all of the Hollywood, like, freaky, scary ghost story things, like, too. And I remember when I took my first class, Talk to the Entities class, the beginning class, it was everything I could do to stay on the phone. I wanted to throw my phone across the room and run the other direction. Like, I was freaking out. And I was like, I don't know if I want to know stuff. I mean, and the whole time I was like, I don't know if I want to know this. And at the end of the day, what won out for me was, how much do you have to cut off parts and pieces of your awareness to pretend that you are not aware of the spirit world and the energies that are not, physical in nature, like where you see them. And what I have always, desired of myself is to have more of me. And so what really came down to was like, look, I'm not going to let what I'm calling fear or whatever that is. Really, I think it was more excitement. Looking back and going, with everything I've created with this, work for me, it's like, wow, like, it's funny that I thought I was afraid. And, I just chose to have more of me and to have more of my awareness over the fear. It was the choice, totally. And then it goes away.
Oh,
and then you realize, what was I afraid of? Because, they're not more. The thing we talk about in Access is like, just because a being is out of a body does not mean that they're more aware than you, does not mean that they're more conscious than you, does not even mean that they have more answers than you. I mean, so many of the beings I become aware of, like, just really asking them, hey, do you know you're not in a body anymore? Because some of them do not know that. And what a gift. And then that also gives them the choice to go choose something else. Because so many of the beings that were in bodies and are out of bodies right now that you're aware of, however it is you're aware of them, they just don't even, they're kind of lost in space. They don't even realize they're not in a body anymore. They don't actually realize they don't own that house. It's funny, like where you run into them. It's like, really? A bathroom? Is this like enough for you? Like, wouldn't you like to go to something different? They're just kind of, so it's like, it's pretty amazing what you start to be aware of. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, okay, so we need to take a quick little break.
Yep.
And when we come back, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about, like, because kind of how you communicate with the entities, because, you're kind of like, you're just having conversations with them. And, I, too, had bought into the whole media thing of, like, it must be significant. Show me you are here. And just, all the different, but it's like a conversation, and you were kind of hinting about that. So I'd love to be able to do that a little bit more, because I know the more we communicate with that, we actually communicate more with our bodies, too. So
totally.
I'd like you to touch on that when we come back. Okay?
Brilliant.
Yep. All right. So this is Donnielle. This is Right Body for You with my special guest, Cara Wright, and we are on A2Z.fm, and we'll be right back.
What if your body could be an ease and not a burden? What would life be like if you could enjoy your body? What if changing your body was easier than we've been taught? And what if it's not about the latest fad? Join Donnielle each week on Right Body for You as she explores what bodies are and the ease of change that's possible. Each week you will receive inspirational stories of those who've used the Right Body for You energetic tools to change their body and the tools that they used, tools that you can begin to use immediately. Listen for Right Body for You every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on A2Z.fm.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dane here, and I would like to invite you to an adventure in being. I've just written and finished a new book known as Being You, Changing the World. Are you one of those dreamers? One of those people who's always known that other possibilities should be available but haven't yet been able to see them be created? Well, I wrote this book for you. In it, you'll find tools, processes, and unique perspectives to change the things you've always wanted to change but didn't know how. In it, you'll find an invitation to a different possibility for a way that we can be in this world that changes not only our lives, but by being us, allows us to contribute to changing everything planet-wide that doesn't work. Are you aware that truly great people, truly being them, is the only thing that has ever created a great change on this planet? Are you willing to step up? Are you willing to be one? Check out a copy of my new book, Being You, Changing the World. I invite you to go to beingyoubook.com for a free gift.
This is Right Body for You with Donnielle. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255 or Canada 613-800-8763 or UK 4433-0001-0625. You can Skype us at a2zen.fm. Or if you'd like to email a question, please send it to Donnielle at accessconsciousness.com. Now, back to the program.
And welcome back to Right for You. This is Donnielle, your host and body tour guide. I am joined today by my special guest, Cara Wright, who also has a fantastic show here on our A2Zen.fm family. And I also want to invite you to, we're talking about bodies, I want to invite you to, I'm doing a Right Body for You workshop in Houston. Just next month, so about 4 weeks from now when the show airs. And we have a lot of fun, and there's actually a lot of entities there. It's interesting. Entities usually come up in the body class, as well as money and eating and communication, and we have a good time. So I'd like to invite you all to check that out. It's 2.5 days. Change your body, change your life, change your life, change your body, and have a good time while doing it. You can go to Donnielle.com to find out more about that. So, back to our fantastic Cara, who's talking about entities, and there's a lot of people talking to us right now, which is interesting, to actually have that awareness. And, and I don't actually hear words in my head. I don't see them like you, but I did have to acknowledge that they were there. And before the break, I asked you to talk a little bit about how you communicate with them and perceive them. It's like have a conversation with them and that kind of stuff. Because I know so many people still have that image of somebody over a crystal ball and their eyes rolling back in the head and like this here.
And so many people also function from just because if you acknowledge you're aware of an entity that's not in a body, that somehow that would give that entity some sort of power over you, or they would come in and possess your body, or yes, entities can affect your bodies, and there are people who play with entities and actually do invite entities in to run parts and pieces of their bodies. And it's always a choice. It's not something that, if you're always willing to be the dominant entity in your life, that's not something that actually can occur. And so it's not that those things don't happen. It's just that it's not just, oh, I'm aware, so now I'm like open season on whatever could occur that Hollywood has, made a bigger deal. So, and it's,
I found actually the opposite to be true. The less you acknowledge you're aware of it, the more that stuff happens.
Totally. Because, that's the thing I always say to people. It's just because you're not choosing to acknowledge that stuff's going on around you doesn't mean that it goes away. I mean, if you just turn your back on a tree, does the tree go away or is the tree still there? Right? It's like,
I can't see you. You can't hurt me. I can't see you. You can't fall on me.
So many people are like fingers in the ears going, no, 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 no. And, what was such a empowering thing for me with this, acknowledging what I was aware of and learning all these tools and access in general, because entity work is in Foundation Level 1 too. There is a specialty class, and then it's also in Foundation Level 1 because it is that predominant and it does affect your life. And I mean, I looked at so many people in my family and how freaking aware we all are, and so much of it had to do with being aware of entities, and everyone's aware in a different way, and everyone had kind of figured, and the thing is like what we do in order to not be aware of the spirit world is we basically create filters and barriers to that awareness. And those filters and barriers tend to be like what you can perceive in your body a lot of times. Like sometimes when a lot of entities show up, which I had asked in the break, I was like, can we do a clearing? We're going to do it in a second, because I immediately started getting a headache. I think Christine is gone completely like unconscious. And I know, Donnielle, you keep talking about the pack you're aware of. And the thing is like, it's such a gift to acknowledge the spirit world, that when you do kind of put that sign out in the world and go, hey, I'm willing to look at this and be aware of it, they do show up. And it's not like they show up to get you. It's more like, oh my God, somebody can see me. Somebody's acknowledging me. And I don't actually see them. Like, I just perceive them. And like I said before, my body does give me a lot of information. And like this particular, like the sensation I'm having in my head right now, it's like, okay, like we could probably do a little bit of a clearing here, and that might assist. So in Access, we talk about, there's an entity clearing that we do. And basically what the entity clearing does is you put your attention on the beings that you're aware of, and it can just be like a very spacious attention. It's not like you have to laser beam focus, or you have to like know where the being is in the room or anything like that. But it's just like, so just right now, just kind of in a spacious way, be willing to be aware of the energies in the room without even having to define what those energies are. And then the clearing is basically, truth, who are you? Truth, who were you before that? 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 Truth, who will you be in the future? Truth, what were all your jobs? What were all your jobs before that? What were all your jobs before that? Before that? Before that? And truth, what will your jobs be in the future? And truth, what are all of you? And what were you before that? 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 And what will you be in the future? You can all go now. And then we uncreate and destroy all the magnetic imprinting. And just see if you feel any different. Donnielle, do you feel any different? Can you perceive anything different in your space? Could you perceive that energy shifting?
Yeah, there's a totally lot less people around.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I think if people are willing to just have that spacious awareness of what's going on around them, it's different than if like, well, I'm not specifically aware of this being or that being. Now you can be. Basically, there's three things you're going to do with entities pretty much. You're either going to clear them, which is a gift, because again, it's like giving them a space to choose something different. So many of them are just kind of like not really aware of what's going on. They're stuck because they don't know that they're stuck, Then if they don't clear, and, it's like sometimes you'll really like get this like, okay, like entities are cleared. And then sometimes some of them will stick around. So then the question is, okay, communicate. Are these entities here to communicate with me? And then the third one is receive, which is a little bit more, people have a little bit more of a, what do you mean receive from entities? And it's like, what if you were able to receive from all energies? What would that change for your life? So there's three things. So clear, communicate, and receive. And you really just ask the question, like, okay, so what's going to create here? Clearing, communicate, receive. And then I just always go with the one that feels lighter to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when you talk a little bit, it's like, I know a lot of people also get into that, but if I become aware of it, then I have to do something like Sixth Sense. I have to go and show them where a box is or something like that. And what I said is,
then you'll be employed by all the entities in the world. Yeah. And it's like, it's always a choice. And for whatever reason, I didn't actually function from that point of view. And so many people do. They're like, well, if I choose to do these, to say I'm aware of this, then I'm going to then have to clear all the entities on the planet. And it's like, well, what if that isn't true? When you go down to the mall and there's people in the mall, do you actually think you have to do anything with every single person? Like,
I don't?
Yeah. It's like, that's akin to like, or if it's like you decide you are interested in, or you're going to be aware of trees and you go on a hike, do you have to do something with every single tree, or are you just like, oh, they're there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a prevailing point of view that it's like, oh, then, like you said, employed. I have to, if I open myself up to this, I have to do it, and this is my job. And it doesn't pay very well.
Yeah, so my question to people like that, too, is like, well, what if everything is the opposite of what it appears to be? And if you were willing to choose to be aware of beings and entities, could you employ them to create the reality that you would like to create?
Yeah, well, you talk a little bit about that because so many people have that point of view. Is like, I have to do something for them, or they're going to try to get me. And for just like having a team or something like that. We talk a little bit more about like working with entities, not just like getting rid of them.
Totally, yeah. Because I mean, and again, like there is, it's always different, and it's always asking the question of what's going to create. What's going to create what I'd like to create here. And, there are beings that are absolutely here and would love to contribute, and they're just asking, they're just waiting for you to ask them. We do talk a lot about teammates. Most people do have like a team that work with them. And the thing that is really interesting about entities that really creates more of a space for you to have more is to really not have a point of view about, to not over-identify them and to not totally come to definition about entities. People also do that too, where it's like they're either angels or guides or this or that, or they're like demons and bad.
Superior in some way.
Yeah, and so what if you could just look at them like energy, and they're no different than you. They're not better than you. They're not more aware than you. They're not more conscious than you. If you were able to interact with them from that place, like what would that create? And that's really like what you're talking about. If you were willing to be the dominant entity and you were willing to know that you're aware of these beings and know that they're not better than you or more powerful than you, then that is where you can start to create with them and ask what they know about things and ask if they'd be willing to contribute. Like I ask entities to contribute to my classes all the time. Like, would you be willing to go out and, bring people to class or, and I don't do it from a place that they are better than me. I do it from a place of like, hey, would you be willing to contribute? Like 50-50, not they're bigger, better, brighter, and I'm just this ding dong that I have to go to them for all the information. They have information, and that doesn't mean that I'm less than they are. And that's where you really want to function from with entities.
Yeah, and I can't, it's funny when you're talking about bringing people to class, and I do this all the time too, to ask for the contribution. And I keep waiting for the day when, like in Harry Potter, an entity carries a body in. I find that funny, and I can't wait for, to see that if that ever happens, right? And we've kind of hinted a lot about this, about how entities affect the body and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we need to take another quick little break. Show's just flying by. But when we come back, let's really, really hit on that. Because for me, this has always been a fascinating topic. It's more than the being uncomfortable or perceiving like I'm in a crowd or things like that. Affecting the body is so much more than that. So I'd love let's get into that, way into that when we come back from the break,
awesome.
Okay,
cool.
All right. This is Donnielle. This is Right Body for You. My special guest, Cara Wright. Well, she's the one in the body, plus we have all the others. So we're going to take a quick little break. We're on A2Zen.fm, and we'll be right back.
What if your body could be an ease and not a burden? What would life be like if you could enjoy your body? What if changing your body was easier than we've been taught? And what if it's not about the latest fad? Join Donnielle each week on Right Body for You as she explores what bodies are and the ease of change that's possible. Each week you will receive inspirational stories of those who've used the Right Body for You energetic tools to change their body and the tools that they used, tools that you can begin to use immediately. Listen for Right Body for You every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm.
When you're pondering the big questions like, is there more than this? How can I have a happy relationship? What would it take to like my body? And how do I make more money? Where do you go for information and tools? Check out the online store at accessconsciousness.com. Accessconsciousness.com has books, DVDs, instant video and audio downloads, online classes, and so much more. Subjects include abuse, changing your body, recovery, raising children, business techniques, tools to generate more money, how to have better sex and healthier relationships, just to name a few. At accessconsciousness.com, you can also find facilitators who teach local classes on a variety of subjects. Accessconsciousness.com, your one-stop shop for tools to assist you in changing your life. All of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. Go to accessconsciousness.com to learn more.
This is Right Body for You with Donnielle. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255 or Canada 613-800-8763 or UK 4433-0001-0625. You can Skype us at A2Zen.fm. Or if you'd like to email a question, please send it to Donnielle at accessconsciousness.com. Now, back to the program.
And welcome back to Right Body for You with, I am Donnielle, your host and tour guide. And, you know, the crowd of people is here. It's interesting because it's like, as we were talking about, I said the title, Right Body for You. I get a lot of, body? What? And my special guest today is Cara Wright, who has many amazing talents and gifts to share with the world, and entities is but one of them. And yet is the topic of today. So, I'm going to talk in this segment about how entities actually affect the body. And we're not talking about just possession and whatever, because, you know, there's choice in whether an entity possesses you, which is a whole interesting topic. But just, would you share, like, some of, as you've been working with entities and people, what you have found and experienced?
Yeah, you know, and like I said, you know, I've said in the show, one of the main ways I actually perceive them is my body gives me a lot of information. So there's different, you know, like, there's different things that my body will do. Like dizziness tends to be something like when I'm aware of entities, my body will do dizzy, or also that sense of cloudy, like, and also too, like, I just can't stay awake. I just want to, like, put my head on the table and fall asleep. And some of this is as I've built more muscles and as I've chosen to be aware more, my body is, like, doing those things less. And still, like, today, you know, like I just talked about how I had a headache. So there's that, like, your body can give you tells or indicators of what's going on around you, and our bodies do that anyway. I mean, I know you talk about that brilliantly with your show. It's just like how our bodies give us information about our environment, and they do that with entities. So our bodies can be like indicators. The other thing is that entities can affect your body, and one of the things that, like, just in the sense that they're wanting to get your attention and you're not willing to be aware of them, and they get closer to you and they get closer to you and they get closer to you. The thing that we cleared, the magnetic imprinting, like after I did that entity clearing, I said I cleared all the magnetic imprinting. The reason we do that is because as we as beings go in and out of bodies, we actually can keep magnetic imprinting, which is basically where we energetically keep points of view that we had about our body when we were in a body with us, even though we're no longer in a body. And sometimes if an entity is close enough to you, whatever was going on in their magnetic imprinting can really affect your body. Like, for an example, my mom was having some blood sugar stuff going on, and she was kind of like, it was out of the blue, and she was like, I don't know what's going on. And so she came over, and I was running her bars, and we kind of got talking. My mom is incredibly aware of entities, like more so than I ever realized. Like I started talking to her about this and she was kind of like, oh yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? Oh yeah. Like,
this is a big revelation. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what the heck? So it's so interesting because what we realized is that her mom had been trying to get her attention, and my mom was choosing to ignore her, and like not ignore her, but I think like my mom was expecting the interaction and communication to be one thing, and what my grandma was like there to actually communicate with something else. And so my grandma was basically like getting closer and closer to her, and she was a diabetic in her body in life. So my mom's blood sugar started being really wackadoodle. And the minute we like acknowledged that, and like I basically had my mom just ask her to step back and say, hey, you know, like when you're willing to actually acknowledge they're there and communicate with them, then they can actually step back. You can have that flow of communication, and it's not this like where they're so close to you that your body basically starts to duplicate their magnetic imprinting. It's happened to, like, I remember Shannon O'Hara wrote a chapter in her Talk to the Entities book about a woman had come in and she was basically diagnosed with the same exact breast cancer that her mother had died from. Mm-hmm. And in the session with Shannon, what came out was that the mom was so desperately trying to get the daughter's attention that she was so close to her body that the daughter's body was basically creating the same disease that the mom's body had had. And so when she was able to facilitate the acknowledgement of the two and have the being and ask being to step back, then that all cleared up. So they can affect the bodies in that way. And then like the other really cool thing that I've experienced because I work with women who are pregnant is the willingness for beings coming to be born to contribute to the mom's body is freaking phenomenal and amazing. Oh, yeah. And so often, like, just teaching a mom how to lower her barriers and to acknowledge the being there and to receive from the being will just make morning sickness go away, will help create them able to sleep better, will balance out their hormones, will, you know, like so many of the things that women, quote unquote, experience as a normal pregnancy symptom, those things start to go away because they're willing to receive the contribution that being is willing to be for their body. So there are so many different ways that beings, the spirit world can.
Yeah, I had a friend who was pregnant, and then, you know, the entity kind of snuck in there and was like, haha, I'm coming. And she's like, what? You know, and then, you know, she actually had a conversation with the entity. She's like, listen, okay, if you're coming, then you're going to help me lose all the baby weight and everything, even after you're out. And you know what? She ended up skinnier than when she got pregnant.
Yeah.
It was just a contribution. It wasn't mother, because, you know, she has no time. No, she had a nanny. She has everything. She was great. The entity of the child contributed, even after it wasn't in her body.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, what do they know? Because we have this point of view of beings coming into bodies that they're like these, like, well, and I had it too. Like they were this blank slate, cherub-looking, you know, being that was coming, and it's like, what if they're more infinite beings, and what if they actually have talents, abilities, and capacities, you know, and that they actually can contribute to your life in a way that you and your body in a way that you never even considered? Because I also work with the beings during the birth, and they can so contribute to the birth process being easier. Oh, yeah. Totally. So, yeah, there's, like, definitely not one way that, you know, entities can interact with bodies. And probably a lot of your listeners are surprised because this reality's point of view is the entities only are bad for
harmful.
Your body.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I heard Shannon say once a million years ago about, you know, if you having your bars run, and it's like, it's great. It's always great when somebody else runs your bars. And I was in this really weird situation, and so she's like, have an entity run your bars. And I'm like, what? So I asked for like a conscious entity to run my bars. And what's interesting is my implant band, which is one of the points, I went to sleep. It got so hot it woke me up. Because it was just there to contribute. Yeah. And, you know, and I asked for specific types of energy. Like I said, a conscious entity, someone who's willing to contribute and that kind of stuff. And it's, you know, I'm a big fan of bodies, So I'm not just saying like, oh, just have entity run your wash. No. That was a one-time thing. Because I'm
in a pinch. In a pinch, sometimes they're more available than someone in a body.
And it was awesome, the contribution that they were. And, you know, and I think the gift that my work with accesses and entities has really given me is the fact that I am in charge and it's not significant. Because you'll laugh. I don't know if I ever told you the story, Cara, but it's hilarious. My mom died about 2.5 years ago. And I was on your show a couple years ago talking about that. But anyway,
I know. It was awesome. It's in the archives. You can go find it.
Oh, yes. What was the name of that show then?
It was Talk to the Entities with Cara and Brett, and it is in the Magic in Motion archives. So it was a phenomenal show.
It was a fun show. My mom's a very potent person, whether she has a body or not. And so here in the States, we have something called Memorial Day, right? Mm. And, you know, you remember those are gone and whatever. And, you know, so I remember it was like 3 a.m. I'm sitting in the middle of my bed, cross-legged, being all melancholy and, you know, memorable of people like my mother and other things, you know. And I knew it was everybody else's emotions who it belonged to. And I was just having fun with it, honestly. Every once in a while, you can enjoy those things as long as you know you don't buy it. So I'm sitting there being all mopey and everything, and I look up, and, you know, I don't often see things, but I look up, and it looked like there was just, like, kind of a little, like, weird darkness thing, like a shadow in my doorway. And like I said, the thing that has given me, about Access has given me the gift with entities, is I looked up, and then I looked back down, and literally in the space of 10 seconds, I didn't even do the clearing. I went, listen, if you're not my mom, my grandparents, or my short acceptable list of entities who hang around, get out of here. And I look up, and it was gone. And I just kind of went, huh, okay. but it was so fun because it was like, it gave me that gift of ease. And I think for me that has been one of the biggest things with the whole entities. And what I learned is it's like, it is something that's out there. It's like you don't really want to ignore it, but it's not as scary or dangerous or all-consuming as I had thought it was previously.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you scary or dangerous or, you know, it might make you weird, and how does it get better?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it doesn't, you know, and I mean, many of us, like, have had lifetimes where, you know, being able to communicate with the spirit world, it's always been significant and serious, and like some lifetimes it was like, you know, really well received, you were revered for having that, you know, talent, and then other lifetimes you were basically killed for it. So it's like, yeah, we all have a lot of really, you know, interesting like energies around this particular thing. You know, I do love that about Access, where it takes the seriousness and the significance off of it so that you can really start to explore what you are aware of, how you're aware of it, how it would contribute to your life, and just really be able to have more of you. Because like I said before, to pretend you're not aware of energies in the spirit world, you have to do a lot of diminishing you. A lot.
A lot of unawareness, a lot of like, I don't see you, I know nothing, I don't know why I can't keep my head, I just don't know, I'm stupid, because, you know, because it does show up differently, because like this entire show, you know, I've been interviewing people my entire life, literally my mother, 27 years of radio shows, and so it's like, I'm always like thinking 3 questions ahead, and with this show, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great question, and then I'm like, God, I don't know, it's gone. Because it's like so many other things. They're like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? I'm like, shh, I have a show to do. You know? But, you know, it comes up with that. It's like, I'm not being scatterbrained. I'm not being distracted. Yep. It's just, there's a lot of information going on in my head right now, even though it's just nothing. There's no words. There's no nothing. It's just, there's a lot going on. Huge energetic downloads that many of us misidentify and misapply as illness in the body, like, or, you know, so many people, like, just so much of that
constant exhaustion, headaches, dizziness, like nausea, like so much of a lot of that is just being super aware of entities and then having them, communicate with you energetically and not realizing that's what it is. You can always just ask, is this an entity? And, if it feels light, expansive, then it is. And the entity clearing that I used in the show, like anyone can use that. It's like such a cool, practical tool. And you don't have to worry about basically puts entities into choice. It's not like, because I think the other side of it is people are like, well, I don't want to make them do something they don't want to do. And it's like, well, but you're not. You're just basically giving them choice, and you're giving them the consciousness that they can then use to, be more aware.
Yeah, well, and that for me, that's been one of the gifts of the access clearing with entities. Is it's like it's actually not telling them what to do. It's actually giving them choice that they didn't know they had, because so many of them are, like we talked about, stuck. So you're actually doing something nice for them, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so we got to take a quick little break, our last one. When we come back, we're going to, talk about entities, because I'm just kidding. It seems to be the topic. So, all right. So this is, I know, it's so funny. Once you start acknowledging all these things, and once you acknowledge it more, everything starts getting louder. And I don't mean louder like I am actually hearing things. It's just louder, which is interesting. So this is Donnielle with my special guest, Cara Wright. She's the one with the body, and then all the others who are contributing in some way. We're talking, this is Right Body for You. We're on A2Z.fm, and we'll be right back.
What if your body could be an ease and not a burden? What would life be like if you could enjoy your body? What if changing your body was easier than we've been taught? And what if it's not about the latest fad? Join Donnielle each week on Right Body for You as she explores what bodies are and the ease of change that's possible. Each week you will receive inspirational stories of those who've used the Right Body for You energetic tools to change their body and the tools that they used, tools that you can begin to use immediately. Listen for Right Body for You every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on A2Z.fm.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Dane here, and I would like to invite you to an adventure in being. I've just written and finished a new book known as Being You, Changing the World. Are you one of those dreamers? One of those people who's always known that other possibilities should be available but haven't yet been able to see them be created? Well, I wrote this book for you. In it, you'll find tools, processes, and unique perspectives to change the things you've always wanted to change but didn't know how. In it, you'll find an invitation to a different possibility for a way that we can be in this world that changes not only our lives, but by being us, allows us to contribute to changing everything planet-wide that doesn't work. Are you aware that truly great people, truly being them, is the only thing that has ever created a great change on this planet? Are you willing to step up? Are you willing to be one? Check out a copy of my new book, Being You, Changing the World. I invite you to go to beingyoubook.com for a free gift.
This is Right Body for You with Donnielle. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 815-880-8255 or Canada 613-800-8763 or UK 4433-0001-0625. You can Skype us at A2Z.fm. Or if you'd like to email a question, please send it to Donnielle at accessconsciousness.com. Now, back to the program.
And welcome back to Right Body for You. This is Donnielle with my special guest, Cara Wright. And we were talking about entities distracting you or contributing or whatever. And so I had an epiphany during the break. I'm like, okay, entities, we're doing this show for you. I get it. And I had a great question somewhere in there. I know there was a lot of questions that went away, but wasn't there one that was like, would be really good to get out there with bodies? And it was like, oh, yeah, this one. So, because we were talking about entities affecting bodies and stuff, and, one of my greatest tools that I always give people is like, who am I eating for? Because like you talked about with the magnetic imprinting, when you're creating your body and things like food, so often we're eating for entities. Mm-hmm. And so the entities reminded me about that one. I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. And so, so it's such a gift. And I know we quickly run out of time. So, Cara, why don't you right now, please, let people know where to find you, about your radio show, the new show, what it's called, and that kind of fun stuff, please.
Yes. Okay, cool. I'm going to do it fast because I have something to add. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is by email in this 10 seconds because I'm just still finishing my website. So talk to Cara Wright at gmail.com. I am also on Facebook at Cara Wright Magic. You can come and play with me there. It's with the C, yes.
Yeah.
And my show on A to Zen is Magic in Motion, and it's on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can also come play with me there.
Yeah, so start with mine at 2 and then just stay through hers.
Exactly. How does it get better? So the thing that actually popped for me over the break was how many...
They were loud during the break, weren't they?
Oh, they were. It's like, and I would love to just do this. So for everybody who's listening, past, present, and future, and for the three of us, because I get that there's a lot around the three of us, like for all the beings that are here, just to give them the information energetically that they could actually go choose to have another body.
Yeah.
And
right
like
body for
just like that. I mean, everything shifted. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do the full entity clearing. Sometimes it's like you're perceiving, and with the eating for an entity, it's like so many beings love bodies because you can experience, like being in a body allows you to enjoy food, and when you're not in a body, you don't actually have that, and so they can, you're eating so that they have some sense of the food, and it's like, what if you could just like be aware that that's an entity there and say, hey, you could go get your own body and taste your own food. How does it get better?
Yeah, no, it's exactly, and thank you so much for joining us and having all this great information. This is, like I said, I have a feeling we'll be doing this again because it's just the tip of the iceberg. So thank you for coming on today, Cara.
My pleasure. Yeah.
And I wanted to make a quick announcement about starting next week is September, and it is the 1-year anniversary of my show, Right Body for You, on A to Zen. It started last September.
Yay! So happy anniversary.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And so we're going to be giving some prizes away. We're going to celebrate the whole month. Forget this birthday week stuff. I want a whole anniversary month of the show and the Right Body for You. It's been such a joy to be on A to Zen.fm. And Christine helped me with that so much. And so we're going to celebrate. So start tuning in next week. We're going to, like I said, prizes, fun. We have fun topics for the shows. And so more information is coming on that, and you get to tune in next week to start hearing it, because next week is the official 1 year. Woo woo, because I started at the beginning of September. So I'm pretty excited about that. And please do join us in September for the birthday or for the anniversary of the 1 year of radio show for a Right Body for You 2.5-day workshop in Houston. I love doing those. We have so much fun. Like I said, we talk about food, money, earth, pain, communication, entities. Entities are always in the class. Sometimes entities outnumber the people in the bodies.
And it's like, the earth is a big entity, so.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Yes. And there's such a connection between bodies and earth, and I've done quite a few shows on that, so check it out. So thank you, Cara. It was a treat to have you on. Go check her out, her show, guys. She's brilliant. This entity's just tip of the iceberg. And all right, guys, make it a fun week. Make it a happy week. Enjoy your body because it's enjoying you. And be back next week because I will be. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Right Body for You. Donnielle will return next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on A to Zen.fm. We hope you and your body will join us.